Hello everyone, welcome to free crash course for competitive exams held by VIRAT HINDUSTAN SANGHAM in association with Manifest IAS Bengaluru. This program is inspired by Dr. SWAMY and it was inaugurated on 28th of January 2022. So you can watch this program online on the YouTube channel of VIRAT HINDUSTAN SANGHAM. Link is provided here, and also on the YouTube channel of Udaya News Karnataka. The link is provided here. Both these channels you can watch the program. Next, if you have any doubts, any clarification, in need of any guidance, any mentoring, please join our Telegram channel VHS Education Forum. So here I have provided the link. So this program is convened by Sri RAVISHANKAR sir, State Education Convener for VHS Karnataka and also President of Good Neighbors India NGO. So I am the chief mentor of your program. I have been mentoring civil service aspirants for past 5 years. Okay. So today and tomorrow we are going to wind up history and next take up economy, right? So what to expect out of these classes? Freshers can use this as a concept clearing class. Concept clearing class, and senior aspirants can use this as a class for your revision, because I am going to cover the entire all these things within a span of 2 to 2.5 months, right? Okay. So today we are in the day 9 and I have mentioned the source for history. It is Spectrum Publications. Spectrum Publications is the source for your modern India, right? Okay. So we'll today begin economic impact of British rule in India. Arthika Parinama. ಬ್ರಿಟಿಷರಿಂದ ಭಾರತದ ಮೇಲೆ ಏನು ಆರ್ಥಿಕ ಪರಿಣಾಮ ಆಯಿತು. Economic impact of British rule in India. First, deindustrialization. So earlier, so what happens is, whoever the invaders who came to India, yaru ಭಾರತದ ಮೇಲೆ ದಾಳಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು, ಅವರು they did not make any structural change. Structural change in the sense what? So they did not alter the land revenue system. Land revenue system sari ಇದು ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ರೆಂಟ್ ಪಾಲಿಸೀಸ್ ಜಮೀನ್ದಾರಿ, ರಯತ್ವಾರಿ, ಮಹಲ್ವಾರಿ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಚೇಂಜಸ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಆರ್ಟಿಸನ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡಿಕ್ರಾಫ್ಟ್ ಟ್ರೇಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಬದಲಾವಣೆಯನ್ನ ತರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಆರ್ಟಿಸನ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡಿಕ್ರಾಫ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಗುಡಿ ಕೈಗಾರಿಕೆಯಲ್ಲೂ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಬದಲಾವಣೆಯನ್ನ ತರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಬಟ್ ವೆನ್ ಬ್ರಿಟಿಷ್ ಕೇಮ್ ದೇ ಮೇಡ್ ಎ ಲಾಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಚೇಂಜಸ್. In the Indian economy. So before British came, India constituted 23% of world economy. Approximately 1/4 of world economy was Indian economy before British came. But later on when the British left, Indian economy constituted just 3% of the world economy. So from 23% we reduced to 3% under the British rule, right? Next, deindustrialization, ruin of handicrafts and artisans and handicraftsmen. Gudi kaigarikeya nashavayitu Britishara kedage. So why deindustrialization means what? Industrialization means having the industry, gudi kaigarike industries, adanna reverse madodu andre adanna nasha madodu deindustrialization. So what are the why deindustrialization? One way, free trade. So Charter Act of 1813, it made provision for imports andre free trade. So from England the goods used to come to India, lot of goods used to come to India, right? For that there was no tax. no tax on the incoming goods. That is, all the British goods which used to come to India, that no tax was imposed on those goods, right? So, whereas Indian goods, when Indian goods went to Britain, up to 80% taxes. Suppose India, some silk, Indian silk costed 100 rupees. When it went to England, it costed 180 rupees. 80% tax was imposed on Indian goods, right? So because of this, this Indian exports got closed down. Indian exports to Britain got closed. There was no Indian exports in the later history, right? In the later part. Initially there was exports, but later part, due to huge tariff, huge tax, there was no exports. And also British introduced rail network. This helped in the reaching of goods. Earlier there was no rail network, no rail within India. What used to happen? The goods would be concentrated in the major cities only, like Chennai, that is Madras, or Bombay, or Kolkata. Whereas once the rail network was introduced, goods reached the remotest corners of the country. It went up to the villages. British goods reached up to the villages, right? So this is one way free trade. No steps towards modern industrialization. No steps. So in England, I told yesterday, 1760 to 1840, it was a phase of industrialization. What is industrialization? Innovation, scientific and technical innovations in industry. Earlier, industry used to be handmade. All the goods were handmade. But afterwards, your cotton used to be produced by hand, right? Cotton clothes. But once industry comes, the power loom came. Cotton mill, power loom came. So, in the industrialization, whereas this industrialization was not carried out in India, it was carried out only in England. So, there was deindustrialization in India. There was proper deindustrialization in India. And Indian artisans and handicrafts, Gudi Kaigarike Nasha Aitu, right? Next, ruralization. Ruralization means all these people. So all the since the artisans and handicrafts, city there was artisans and handicrafts. So these people, since the artisanship and handicrafts, both of them got destroyed, they went to rural areas. Since trade got destroyed, people moved to rural areas. So there was excess population, too much population in the rural areas, right? Okay, so because of this, there was increased pressure on agriculture. Since ruralization, increased pressure on agriculture, right? Next, impoverishment of peasantry. Peasantry means raitru. So, our nasha, impoverishment means they became poor. Raitru badavaradu inna. Yenike maximization of rents. British focused on maximum rent from the lands, and also permanent settlement system. Under permanent settlement, revenue, land tax was very high. Because of which peasantry, that is raitru ತುಂಬಾ ಸಂಕಷ್ಟಗಳನ್ನ ಅನುಭವಿಸಿದ್ರು, right? Next, and also the tenants lost all their traditional rights in land. Tenants means ಯಾರು ಬೇರೆಯವರ ಭೂಮಿನ ತಗೊಂಡು ಉಳುಮೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ ಸಾಲ ಬಾಡಿಗೆಗೆ, they lost all rights. ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳು ಸಿಗ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಹಕ್ಕುಗಳು ನಾಶ ಆದವು, right? They lost all traditional rights, right? And also there were illegal dues were extracted from the peasants, and also they focused on begar. Begar means forced labor. So even if you don't want to work for someone, you would be forced to work for that person. That is called as begar. Right? Because of all this, and also there were increased money lenders. Money lenders used to have lot of interest rate, because of which the peasantry, that is the Raitru, they got impoverished. They became poor. Right? Next, emergence of intermediaries. Intermediaries, absently landlordisms, ruin of old zamindars. Emergence of intermediaries. Intermediaries ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮಧ್ಯವರ್ತಿಗಳು ಶುರುವಾದ್ರು. Absentee landlordism, I spoke about it yesterday. So absentee landlordism is, suppose here is the land, this land somebody else will be cultivating. ಯಾರೋ ಉಳುಮೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ, ಇದರ ನಿಜವಾದ ಓನರು, he will be in the city, he will be sitting in some city, he will be taking the rent from here. So this is called as absentee landlordism. Right? Next, ruin of old zamindar. Old zamindararu ಅವ್ರದ್ದು ಕೂಡ ನಾಶ ಆಯಿತು. Why? Because of British policy, land became a commodity. ಮುಂಚೆ ಪಾರಂಪರಿಕವಾಗಿ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್, because of British, that got changed. They made a land as a commodity, commercial. They sold the land for price. They sold it for a price. And also land grabbing. There was land grabbing. ಬೇರೆಯವರು ಜಾಗನ ಹೊಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರು. So land grabbing was there. There was absentee landlordism. So people used to buy the land. Rich people used to buy the land, sit in the city and enjoy the rent. Absentee landlordism was there. And also it increased the burden on the peasant, because of which this increased the burden on the peasant. Okay. Stagnation and deterioration of agriculture. Right? Stagnation and deterioration of agriculture means agriculture became stagnant. Growth irlilla agriculture alli, and it got bad. It deteriorated. Not only did it stop growing, but also it deteriorated it from the normal position. Suppose agricultural GDP is, let us say, 100 crore. ಸೊ ಸ್ಟಾಗ್ನೆಂಟ್ ಇಷ್ಟಲ್ಲೇ ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಂತು. ಸ್ಟಾಗ್ನೆಂಟ್, ಇದು ಮುಂದೆ ಗ್ರೋ ಆಗಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಇನ್ನೂ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಯಿತು. ಫ್ರಮ್ 100 crore to 75 crore, like that it reduced. That is stagnation and deterioration of agriculture. Okay, so why did agriculture reduce? Because there was no modern technology. ಬರೀ ನೇಗ್ಲಲ್ಲಿ ಉಳುಮೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಯಾವುದೇ ಹೊಸ ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿನ ಅಗ್ರಿಕಲ್ಚರ್ಗೆ they did not add any new technology to agriculture. So and also land got fragmented. Fragmentation of land means ಮುಂಚೆ ಇಷ್ಟಿದ್ರೆ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್, ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಸೇಲ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಡಿವೈಡ್ ಆಗೋಯ್ತು. It got divided. This is fragmentation of land. Land got fragmented. So along with this, famine and poverty. Famine, baragala. Famine means baragala. So there was lot of famine. ಬರಗಾಲ ಶುರು ಆಯ್ತು. ಮತ್ತೆ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಬಡತನ, it increased the ಬಡತನ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಯ್ತು. So because of which between 1850 to 1900, 2.8 crore people died in famines. 1850 ಇಂದ 1900 ಒಳಗೆ approximately 3 crore people died due to what? Famine. That is ಬರಗಾಲದಿಂದ 3 ಕೋಟಿ ಜನ ಸತ್ರು 50 ವರ್ಷದಲ್ಲಿ. So commercialization of Indian agriculture. Commercialization. So what do you mean by commercialization? Earlier, whatever the crops they used to grow, farmers, they used to consume it themselves. Whatever extra was there, they used to sell. So now they started commercialization, that is growing of commercial crops, that is sugar cane, cotton. All these are called commercial crops, which are sold outside, right? Coffee, tea, all these things. Okay. So earlier they used to consume whatever the crops they used to grow, the farmers used to consume. Later on, British introduced commercialization, spices, fruits, vegetables, everything got commercialized, right? I told you the commercial crops. Next, spread of money economy. It spread money economy. So what is money economy? So earlier, if somebody wants fruits or vegetables, they used to give something else, rice or wheat, and get fruits and vegetables. But the British introduced money. So if you want fruits or vegetables, give money and take. Money economy was introduced by the British. Okay. So, and also it introduced internal and international trade. Agriculture commodities, for example, indigo. So, agriculture commodities, products were sold within India, all over India and also outside India. Next, destruction of industry and late development of modern industry. The industry, kaigarike. So, industry ನಾಶ ಆಯಿತು ಮತ್ತೆ modern industry start ಮಾಡಲೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. Okay. So, Indian industry steadily destroyed. Indian industry, swalpane it got reduced. It got ruined, Indian industry, right? And also, it led to deindustrialization. Deindustrialization means, suppose there was cotton industry. Cotton industry was there. This industry got ruined. So, likewise, all industry got ruined. So, there was deindustrialization. Okay. So, shipbuilding industry. So, one example is shipbuilding industry. Ships, earlier what happened? There used to be Indian ships which used to go take goods from India and go to England, and takes goods from England and come to India. So, what this British did, British Parliament passed a law. It passed a law saying that ships below 350 ton, ships ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಹಡಗುಗಳು 350 ಟನ್ಗಿಂತ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇರೋ ಹಡಗುಗಳು ಬ್ರಿಟನ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ ಮಧ್ಯೆ ಓಡಾಡಂಗಿಲ್ಲ, ದೇ ಕೆನಾಟ್ ಟ್ರಾವೆಲ್ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ನಿರ್ಬಂಧವನ್ನ ಬ್ರಿಟಿಷ್ ಪಾರ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಹೇರ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿಸ್ ರಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ಷನ್ all Indian ships were below 350 ton. So because of this restriction, none of the Indian ships were able to travel. So Indian ship industry also got ruined, right? And also British did not allow Indian steel industry. So British encouraged, British people, they wanted to import steel from Europe. They did not encourage indigenous steel industry. Today there is lot of steel industry. So steel, iron and steel industry. So British actually did not actually allow the growth of steel industry. Okay. So along with the Britishers, there were Indian traders and money lenders. Traders, you know what is trader? Trading, who trades in the commodities. And also money lenders. So money, ದುಡ್ಡನ್ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿ ಬಡ್ಡಿಯನ್ನ ಪಡೆಯೋರು. So both of them, money lenders and traders, they became rich. Under the British, traders and money lenders became rich, but not poor people. Okay. So indigenous bankers, so traders, so money lenders, everybody became rich, but not Indian poor people, right? So in the second half of 19th century, modern based industry, second half of 19th century endeno, after 1850 modern industry came to India. After 1850, so first jute mill, first cotton mill gets established around 1853 and 1855. First jute mill in India, first cotton mill. Allivargu modern industry baralla. So first cotton mill 1853 is the first cotton mill, Bombay, very important. 1855, first jute mill in Bengal, 1855, right? And also foreign capital came to India. ಏನಕ್ಕೆ foreign capital ಅಂದ್ರೆ ವಿದೇಶಿ ಹಣ ಭಾರತಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂತು. ಏನಕ್ಕೆ? ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾರತದಲ್ಲಿ ಹಣವನ್ನ ಹೂಡಿದ್ರೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕಾಬಟ್ಟೆ ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್ ಸಿಗ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು. ಸೊ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ವಿಚ್ ಫಾರಿನ್ ಮನಿ ಕೇಮ್ ಟು ಇಂಡಿಯಾ. ಏನಕ್ಕೆ? ಇಲ್ಲಿ ರಾ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ಸ್ ಚೀಪ್, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಲೇಬರ್ ಚೀಪ್, ಸಂಬಳ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಕೊಡ್ಬೋದು. ಅಂಡ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ market is also there. Whatever you produce, there is a big market for consumption, right? Okay, so these are the points with respect to destruction of Indian industry and late development of modern industry, right? Okay, so and also there were regional disparities andre industry did not get distributed properly. Ivatgunu Hyderabad, Karnataka, all those regions doesn't have proper industry because there is regional disparity. All the industries are concentrated around Bengaluru. So this was done by this was a result of British, right? Next, national critique of colonial economy. ಇವರು ಇದನ್ನ ಮಾಡೋದ್ರಿಂದ colonial economy ಅಂದ್ರೆ who are the colonizers? British are the colonizers. Which is the colony? India is the colony. So ಇದನ್ನ nationalist critique, ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರೀಯತಾವಾದಿಗಳು ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಇದನ್ನ ಬೈದ್ರು. Okay, so this was first, it was done by Dadabhai Naoroji. British policies making India poor. First it was said by Dadabhai Naoroji. Also called as Grand Old Man of India. His book name is Poverty and Un-British Rule in India. Okay, so he gives the drain theory. Economic drain. So what do you mean by drain? So whatever, see, suppose you consider this as India, whatever you produce within, if you use the money within India itself, so that is the actual good economics. But whatever money you produce in India, whatever products you produce in India, you take that product or money and use it in England, then Indian money is drained through England. ಭಾರತದ ಹಣ ಇಂಗ್ಲೆಂಡ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು. So this was told by whom? Dadabhai Naoroji tells this in his book Poverty and Un-British Rule in India, right? So the major drain ಎಲ್ಲಾಗ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು? Apart from products, so products na sell ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲ, ಅದರಿಂದ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು salaries and pensions. British servants ಗೆ there was lot of salaries. They used to give good amount of salary. They used to give good pension. All these amount used to go to England. Indiaದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಇರ್ತಾ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ, right? So that was also one point of economic drain. And also military salary ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, payments for shipping salary ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು. So shipping, if they do shipping, the amount for that shipping. So all these were drained to England. All the money was totally drained to England. Okay, so one more person speaks of the critic, who gives the critique of the colonial economy. One more person gives the critique. So what is that? Who is that person? Romesh Chandra Dutt, RC Dutt gives the critique. He also scolds the policy of British. So in his book, what is his book? The book name is Economic History of India. Economic History of India is the book name of Romesh Chandra Dutt, RC Dutt. Okay, so what does he say andre, in the 19th century, that is from 1800 to 1899, India was a supplier of foodstuffs. So India used to supply raw material. Indiaದಲ್ಲಿ, I mean England ಅಲ್ಲಿ industrialization ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತಲ್ಲ, so industrialization ಗೆ India used to give raw materials. The raw materials used to get supplied from India, and India acted as a market. Alli ಏನು goods produce ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು, everything was sold within India. So India was a big market for the British people, right? And also now we will focus on British policies making India poor. What are the policies of British? Yeah, what are the policies of British which made India poor? So one of the policies were the poverty. So poverty was made due to okay, so here they say that development was equated with industrialization. So British, what did they do? If we give industry within India, that will become development. That will become development. That was, so industry na ಸ್ಥಾಪನೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಸಾಕು, every problem will get solved anta British thought, right? Okay, so this was the problem, but here they allowed foreign industry, not Indian industry. The British allowed foreign industry, so because of which India became poor, because all the profits were taken back to England. No profit was used or spent within India, right? So it was actually foreign capital based industry made India poor. Foreign capital na India dalli invest ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು, ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್ ನ ಇಂಗ್ಲೆಂಡ್ ಗೆ ತಗೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದೇ ಹಣವನ್ನ ನಮ್ಮ ಬಡವರಿಗಾಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ಯಾರಿಗೋ ವಿನಿಯೋಗ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವೈ India became poor. Next, growth of trade and railway to help Britain. So whatever the trade ಏನ್ ನಡೀತಾ ಇತ್ತು, whatever the trade that was happening, and also railway, everything helped the British. Okay, so I told already, India became a importer of finished goods. Whatever the products that were manufactured in England, that was imported into India, and India sent just raw materials. So this is a bad economic framework, because raw materials ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. raw materials ಅಂದ್ರೆ your metals, agriculture products, minerals, everything, they go from India. But these raw materials, they just go illi ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, they go cheap, they buy it very cheap, they manufacture it in England and sell at high price. So cheap buying allu India loss ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ, high price buy ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೂ India loss ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ. So this is a bad economic model, right? Okay, so railways were also used. Railways were also used to help British trade. Whatever the British investment was there, or the British products, to carry the British products to all over India. Earlier I said the products were limited to just few cities alli products sale ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು. But after the railways came, the products went to all the villages to every nook and corner of India. One-way free trade and tariff policy. So what is one-way free trade? One-way free trade andre I have already told. See, whatever the export used to happen, they used to put 80% tax on Indian products. Whatever imports were happening into India, 0% tax. So the prices were illi, these prices used to get high. So Indian products sale ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ ಇಂಗ್ಲೆಂಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, whereas 0 tax ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ British products used to get sold in India. So because of one-way free trade, Indian handicrafts got ruined. Right? Okay. So And also next is effect of economic drain. Effect of economic drain. Because what was the effect of economic drain? So there was, so British took how much money in the form of economic drain from India? So the amount of money that was taken out from India is actually more than the total land revenue. ಭಾರತದಲ್ಲಿ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ರೆವಿನ್ಯೂ, ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಎಷ್ಟು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು, ಅಷ್ಟು ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಗಿಂತ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಮನಿನ ಬ್ರಿಟಿಷ್ took from India every year, right? That is one thing. Next, they also took half of government revenue. Whatever the revenue, suppose government got 100 crores, 50 crores were taken by the British to England, right? Okay, so this was the effect of economic drain. Next, economic issues, stimulant to national unrest. Economic issues. So because of economic, ಆರ್ಥಿಕ ತೊಂದರೆಗಳಿಂದನೇ ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರೀಯತಾವಾದ ಭಾರತದಲ್ಲಿ ಉದ್ಭವಿಸಿದ್ದು. Economic issues. Okay. So earlier what Indians thought that British rule is good for India. British rule is good for India, but later on they realized that British rule is actually ruining us. It is making us poor every day, right? Because of which all your civil uprisings, tribal uprisings, everything can be civil tribal uprisings. One second. Civil tribal uprisings, all of them because of economic drain. British, whatever the bad economic policies followed by the British, because of that the civil and tribal uprising started. Because of that civil and tribal uprising started. Next, stages of colonialism in India. So because of this national unrest. ನಿಮಗೆ ಹೊಟ್ಟೆಗೆ ಬಟ್ಟೆಗೆ ತೊಂದರೆ ಆದಾಗ obviously you will protest, right? You will protest. So because of British rule, the Indians got very poor. Industry, agriculturalists, traders, everybody got ruined. So because of which they protested against the British. Stages of colonialism in India. How many stages are there? There are 3 stages. So what is the stage andre? How British colonialism changed from India from initially first stage to second stage. How it changed? Second stage to third stage. How it changed? So this is the stages of colonialism. Stages of colonialism in India, right? So what is the first stage? So in the first stage it is merchant capitalism or mercantilism. First stage is based on merchant capitalism. So merchant means what? In England there were merchants. Merchants means businessmen. They used to invest capital. Buy the goods in India, and take that goods and sell it in England. So that is mercantilism. Here, this is the first stage. So what did they focus upon? They focus upon gaining monopoly of trade. East India Company initially was a monopoly. Monopoly means no other British company can trade in India. Only East India Company can trade. Monopoly. They focused on monopoly, and also they tried to control the state power. State power andre slowly, apart from trade monopoly, they tried to control the political power as well. Right? This is the first stage. First stage of the colonialism. That is mercantilism. First stage is called mercantilism. So illi no major changes. Education, health, allela, culture, ಏನು changes ಆಗ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. there was not many changes. So what were the changes that were made? Revenue collection got changed. Your Diwani rights agirbodu, illandre Farman, Farooq CR Farman, all these comes under first stage, right? Revenue administration changed, military organization also changed. Right? So there was in this phase, there was large scale drain of wealth from India. There was too much money was drained, taken away from India. Next, we have the second stage. What is the second stage? So, illi colonialism of free trade. I have already told you what is free trade. So, first stage mercantilism adre, second stage is about free trade. So, British used to import goods at 0%, export goods at 80% tax, right? Okay, so second stage is the colonialism of free trade. So here British, so what they used to do, they treated India as a big market. And pumped British manufactured goods. Na tandi textiles, adu idu ella tandi, they sell it in India. Right? And on the other hand, they exported raw materials. Okay. In this phase, what was the dominant feature? Illi capitalistic economy. Second phase, capitalistic. Bandawala Shahi economy. Second stage. Andre dudduna invest madi profit na togolodu. Second stage, we see capitalistic economy. Next, free entry was granted to British goods. British goods gained free entry to India, right? Next, permanent settlement, Rayatwari, Mahalwari system, all of them come under the second stage. Permanent settlement, Rayatwari, Mahalwari. Everything I discussed all of them in the yesterday's class, right? So, administration was made more comprehensive. So, administration, why administration was made comprehensive? Comprehensive andre ಎಲ್ಲದನ್ನು ಸೇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು. ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಫೀಲ್ಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಅಡ್ಮಿನಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಇಂಪ್ರೂವ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ಇಂಪ್ರೂವ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಬೆನಿಫಿಟ್ ಆಗಂಗೆ. ವೈ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಸಿ ಬ್ರಿಟಿಷ್ ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲಿಸ್ಟ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಟು ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮನಿ ಇನ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ, ರೈಟ್? ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮನಿ. So this money has to be protected. This money investment has to be protected, and British should be given profits. The investors should be given profit. So you invest madadaga, suppose cotton nalli enar invest madidre, British used to bring in cotton policy. Cotton policy ಹೇಗೆ ಡಿಸೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಅಂದ್ರೆ it supported the investors. ಆ ತರ so big investors ke help agange British used to design the policy. Did you get my point? Investors ke help agange they used to conduct the administration. So that is the major thing of this phase, right? Illi personal law ella touch madalla. Personal law andre social and religious fields na they don't touch. Next, modern education was introduced. Second stage, that is the free trade stage, they introduced modern education, right? Okay, taxation and burden. Taxation increase agtade illi. Taxation increases on the peasants, right? So this is the second stage. Next we'll talk about the third stage. What is the third stage? Illi the third stage is called, see, you in 3 stages of colonialism, you should remember the names. First stage, mercantilism. Second stage, free trade. Third stage, investment. Third stage, foreign investment. Very, very important, right? So, third stage, British investment. Because see, by 1840, Industrial Revolution succeeds in England. British make a lot of profit. They make a lot of profit, and this profit had to be invested somewhere. So they choose India. They choose India. Railway ಮಾಡ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ, railways ನ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ. Railways ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ 5% ಬಡ್ಡಿ ತಗೊಂತಾರ ಅವರು ಬ್ರಿಟಿಷರ್ಸ್. So 5% British. So everything, whatever infrastructure, railways, roadways, telegraph, post, everything, they take profit. 5% profit they take. Okay. So third stage is called the stage of foreign investment. Foreign investment ಅನ್ನ ನಾವು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಣ್ತೇವೆ. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ why foreign investment? I already told. British industrial supremacy. Industry gets succeeded. Industry becomes good in the British. Next, it's application of scientific knowledge. Here, scientific knowledge becomes important. So, industrial revolution alle we see scientific knowledge. Spinning jenny anta barutte. Power loom comes. Water arkwright. What is this spinning jenny, water arkwright and power loom? They are machines. They are machines. They are helpful in manufacturing. So, ಮುಂಚೆ ಕಾಟನ್ ಕೈಮಗ್ಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಮೀಟರ್ ಬಟ್ಟೆ ಎಣಿತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ ಪವರ್ ಲೂಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ದಿನಕ್ಕೆ 1000 ಮೀಟರ್ ಬಟ್ಟೆ ಎಣಿಯುವಷ್ಟು ಕೆಪಾಸಿಟಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಓಕೆ, ರೈಟ್. ಸೊ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್, because of all this, the entire world market becomes one. Earlier the markets were different. Indian market, France market, UK market, like that it was divided. But now actually the entire world market becomes one. Andre, what do you mean by becomes one? There will be lot of investment. Andre, British invest in India. Some Indian capitalists invest in British. Today Tatas are investing. Today's world is a unified market, alva. MNCs are invested in India. Indians have invested in various countries. America has invested in India. So like that, entire world is one market today. Likewise, this was the third phase of colonialism. Unified one single market is the third phase of colonialism. Okay. So this is all with respect to the stages of colonialism in India. Next, most important chapter for you, development of Indian press. Direct question in your FDA, SDA, your PSI, and also KPSC, even UPSC. Direct questions. Right? Indian press. ಭಾರತದಲ್ಲಿ ಪತ್ರಿಕೋದ್ಯಮ ಹೇಗೆ ಬೆಳವಣಿಗೆಯನ್ನ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ಕೊಂತು. So first, which is the first newspaper? Bengal Gazette. 1780, Bengal Gazette is the first Indian newspaper, also called as Calcutta General Advertiser. Who brings it? It was bought out by James Augustus Hickey. James Augustus Hickey is the first person who brings this Indian press. Who starts this first newspaper, right? Early regulations. Press ಮೇಲೆ ನಿರ್ಬಂಧಗಳು ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಬಂದವು, right? So early regulations. First we have Censorship of Press Act. First act is called Censorship of Press Act, right? Why this act was? This was enacted by Lord Wellesley. Lord Wellesley enacts this act, and this was due to French invasion. Tipu Sultan jothe serkondi French will come and attack India anta edrukondi this act they enact this act. Next, licensing regulations 1823. The next regulation is licensing regulation. Censorship andre enu? What do you first act? I told Censorship Act. Censor means, you know, picture movies. You all watch movies. So before the movies coming to theater, it will be censored, right? It will be sent to CBFC, censor board. If the censor board approves the movie, only then you can watch the movie. Likewise, press was also censored. Newspaper from the press won't directly come to you. It goes to government, government approves it, then it comes to you. This is against Article 19, freedom of free speech and expression, right? Next is licensing regulation. So allivargu press open madak license bekagtirlilla. 1923 vargu they introduced licensing. Licensing was introduced in 1823. So illi you note down Rajaram Mohan Rai newspaper. Rajaram Mohan Rai's newspaper is called Mirat ul Akbar. It is not given in major sources. Mirat ul Akbar. It is the newspaper of Rajaram Mohan Roy. Okay. Because of licensing regulation, Miratul Akbar stopped publication. Next, we have Press Act of 1835. Press Act of 1835, very, very important. It is also called Metcalfe Act. Metcalfe Act. M-E-T-C-A-L-F-E. M-E-T-C-A-L-F-E. Metcalfe Act, also called Press Act of 1835. What is Metcalfe is called? He is called as a liberator of Indian press. Liberator of Indian press. Yenakang karitare andre 1823 Act alli there was lot of restrictions on press. So he comes, this Metcalfe, what does he do? He removes the restrictions. He removes the restrictions. So that is the Metcalfe Act. Next, we have Licensing Act of 1857. Licensing Act, one more act. Licensing Act 1857, not very important. Next, we have Registration Act of 1867. Registration Act of 1867. Registration andre enilla, press start madbekare you have to get yourself registered. That is the Registration Act. Next, struggle by early nationalists to secure freedom of press. Struggle by early nationalists to secure freedom of press. ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರೀಯವಾದಿಗಳು ಮೊದಲು ಪತ್ರಿಕೆಯ ಫ್ರೀಡಮ್ ನ ಹೇಗೆ ಸ್ಥಾಪನೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು, ರೈಟ್? ಓಕೆ. So here Rajaram Mohan Rai was the first person who demanded freedom of press. Rajaram Mohan Rai. Starting, what did the newspaper demand andre? In the initial phases, it demanded education of the Indians. It demanded political propaganda. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಭಾರತೀಯರನ್ನ ರಾಜಕೀಯವಾಗಿ ಸಬಲೀಕರಣಗೊಳಿಸಬೇಕು. That they focused upon. Next, they also wanted Indians to become politically educated and fight for the nation. Fight for the nation, right? Okay. Many newspapers come during this time. I'm going to tell the newspaper and their names. Very important. You can note down. So first newspaper, Hindu and Swadeshi Mitran. Hindu and Swadeshi Mitran. This was founded by G. Subramania Iyer. G. Subramania Iyer founds Hindu and Swadeshi Mitran. Next, the Bengali newspaper name, Bengali, founded by Surendranath Banerjee. Surendranath Banerjee. Next, Voice of India. Voice of India newspaper founded by Dadabhai Nauroji. Dadabhai Nauroji. Next, newspaper Amrit Bazar Patrika. Amrit Bazar Patrika founded by Sisir Kumar Ghosh. Sisir Kumar Ghosh. Next, newspaper Indian Mirror. Indian Mirror founded by N.N. Sen. N.N. Sen. Next, two newspapers, Kesari and Maratha. Kesari and Maratha. M-A-H-R-A-T-T-A. Maratha founded by Bal Gangadhar Tilak. So Kesari is a Marathi newspaper. Keltare. Kesari ಯಾವ language paper anta? Kesari is a Marathi newspaper. Maratha is a English newspaper. Next, Sudarak newspaper. Sudarak under Gopal Ganesh Agarkar. Sudarak ana newspaper under Gopal Ganesh Agarkar. Okay, so this many, if you know, more than sufficient. Okay, so starting ಅಲ್ಲಿ newspaper actually profit ಮಾಡಕ್ start ಮಾಡಿದ್ರ? No. they did not start the newspaper for making profit. Rather, they started the newspaper as a national service. They wanted to do national service to the people. That is why they start the newspaper, right? So here what happens? The newspaper would be taken to remote villages. ಹಳ್ಳಿಗೂ ನ್ಯೂಸ್ಪೇಪರ್ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಒಂದು ನ್ಯೂಸ್ಪೇಪರ್ ನ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹಳ್ಳಿಗರೆಲ್ಲ ಅದು ಸುತ್ತ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ದೇ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಲೈಬ್ರರಿ ಮೂವ್ಮೆಂಟ್. ಲೈಬ್ರರಿ ಲೋಕಲ್ ಲೈಬ್ರರೀಸ್ ನ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಒಂದು ನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಪೇಪರ್ ನ ಡೀಟೇಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಹಳ್ಳಿಗರೆಲ್ಲ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಓದೋ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಮೂವ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಇಂಪ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಪೇಪರ್. ಸೊ to curb the newspaper, actually section 124A, section 124A is an act of sedition. Sedition andre British government viruddha, if you speak against government and that speech leads to violence, andre bus na sutakadu ಈ ರೀತಿಯಾದ ಚಟುವಟಿಕೆಗಳಿಗೆ ನೀವು ಪ್ರೇರಣೆಯನ್ನ ಕೊಟ್ರೆ you will be booked under sedition act. Section 124A, very, very important, right? Okay. So Sedition Act. So newspaper, if someone says bad against the government, so they would used to be booked under Sedition Act by the British. Okay. Next, the most important, Vernacular Press Act. Vernacular Press Act 1878. What do you mean by vernacular? Vernacular means local language. Local language newspaper. Vernacular newspaper. So here what happens? The local newspaper was critical of the British. Local newspaper used to blame the British for all the shortcomings, right? Okay. So the local newspaper, this act was there. Since the local newspaper used to criticize the British, they enact this act, Vernacular Press Act of 1878. The British enact in order to control the local newspapers. This act was enacted to control local newspaper na control no madadike. This act will get enacted. And also repress seditious writing. Seditious writing means against British. If the writing is against British, that kind of writing is called seditious writing. So adanna suppress madadike this act is enacted. So what is the provision of this act? First, the newspaper start madaru, they have to give a bond. They have to give a bond with the government. One bond na ಮಾಡಿ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು that they are not going to publish news against the government. Against the government news na publish ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ they have to give a writing. They have to give a bond. So a bonded security deposit kuda idbeku. Security deposit enadru bond na breach ಮಾಡಿ government ವಿರುದ್ಧ if they publish, then that bond would be forfeited, right? Next, idru viruddha, if the local newspaper is punished, there is no appeal. ಯಾರತ್ರನೂ ಹೋಗಿ ತಮ್ಮ ತೊಂದರೆಗಳನ್ನ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಳಕ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ local newspapers. There was no appeal. Next, so the next point is, so this was called as a Gagging Act. Gagging Act anta idana karitare. This act was called as Gagging Act, to gag the newspaper. So because of which many newspaper got closed, right? Repression against nationalist journalist continues. ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರೀಯವಾದದ ಪತ್ರಕಾರರ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ಅವರನ್ನ ಹತ್ತಿಕ್ಕುವುದು ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂಸ್. ಅದನ್ನ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಬ್ರಿಟಿಷ್. ಸೊ 1883 Surendranath Banerjee is the first news person to first Indian journalist to go to jail. Who is the first Indian journalist to go to jail? Andre, it is Surendranatha Banerjee. Is the first Indian to go to jail. Which was his newspaper? His newspaper name is Bengali. And also Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Bal Gangadhar Tilak is associated with freedom of press. He used to give lot of articles in the press. So he had two newspapers, right? Kesari and Maratha. These are the two newspapers. So in 1896, what Bal Gangadhar Tilak does is, he does a boycott of foreign clothes. He starts the boycott of foreign clothes. Andre ವಿದೇಶಿ ಉಡುಪುಗಳನ್ನ ಬಾಯ್ಕಾಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದು. ಸೊ ಅಂಡ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಇನಿಷಿಯೇಟ್ಸ್ ಎ ನೋ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಕ್ಯಾಂಪೇನ್. ಈ ಇನಿಷಿಯೇಟ್ಸ್ ಎ ನೋ ಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಕ್ಯಾಂಪೇನ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬ್ರಿಟಿಷರಿಗೆ ಕಂದಾಯವನ್ನ ಕೊಡಬೇಡಿ ಅಂತ ಈ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ಸ್, ರೈಟ್? ಈ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಎ ಕ್ಯಾಂಪೇನ್, ಒಂದು ಚಳುವಳಿಯನ್ನ he begins, right? And also he writes about the plague. ಪೂನಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಸಿಕ್ಕಾಬಟ್ಟೆ ಪ್ಲೇಗ್ ಸ್ಪ್ರೆಡ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಪೂನಾದಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ he writes about the plague ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕಾಬಟ್ಟೆ ಆರ್ಟಿಕಲ್ಸ್ ನ ಯುವರ್ Bal Gangadhar Tilak writes. So he writes the articles. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ what happens, plague spread ಆದಾಗ ಪ್ಲೇಗ್ ಕಮಿಷನರ್ ಒಬ್ಬ ಇರ್ತಾನೆ, ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಅಂತ. He Bal Gangadhar Tilak's followers, they go and kill him, because to stop plague, British will be following too much repressal policies, andre too much bad policies. Andre if someone gets plague, ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ನಿಷ್ಕರುಣೆಯಿಂದ ತಗೊಂಡೋಗಿ ಬೆಟ್ಟದಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಇರಿಸ್ಬಿಡೋರು, ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಸತ್ತೋಗ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ದೇರ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಲಾಟ್ ಆಫ್ ರಿಪ್ರೆಷನ್. ಸೊ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಆಫ್ ವಿಚ್ Rand was killed. One Bal Gangadhar Tilak followers Rand ಅನ್ನೋನ್ನ ಕೊಲೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ರೈಟ್? ಅವಾಗ ದೇ ಸೇ ನೀನು ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಪ್ರಚೋದನೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟೇನೆ, ದ Rand ಗಾಟ್ ಕಿಲ್ಡ್ ಅಂತ. Tilak gets arrested. So he would have written an article in newspaper called Shivaji's Utterances ಅಂತ ಆರ್ಟಿಕಲ್ ಬರ್ದಿರ್ತಾರೆ, based on which he gets arrested. And he was imprisoned for 18 months. Tilak was imprisoned for 18 months. That is the moment when he gets the title called Lokamanya. Today Tilak is called Lokamanya Tilak. So when he goes to jail in 1896, that is when he gets the title Lokamanya, right? Next we have Newspaper Incitement of Offences Act 1908. 1908 ಅಲ್ಲಿ there is a Newspaper Incitement of Offences Act. So why this Newspaper Incitement of Offences Act 1908? Because due to Swadeshi movement, extremist activity would be high. To curb this extremist activity, they bring in this act. So illi Tilak could be sent to Burma jail under this act, the Newspaper Incitement to Offence Act 1908. He would be sent to Burma. Next, Indian Press Act 1910. Indian Press Act 1910. So illu kuda this here what they say, before publishing the newspaper, 2 copies of the newspaper should be submitted to the government. 2 copies of the newspaper should be submitted to the government. That is what is said by Indian Press Act 1910. Next, during First World War time alli enaitu, right? So illi Press Act, I told already, Press Act was there. Indian, so illi Defense of India Act anta barutte. Under Defense of India Act, press would be gagged during First World War. Next, during Second World War, amele after First World War there will be 1931 Act, not very important. Next, during Second World War allo again under Defense of India rules alli press will be restricted. ಮಾಧ್ಯಮಗಳನ್ನ ಪತ್ರಿಕಾ ಮಾಧ್ಯಮಗಳನ್ನ restriction ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. Right. Next, we'll talk about the development of education in India. ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಹೇಗೆ ಭಾರತದಲ್ಲಿ ಮುಂದುವರಿತು. Right. So, initially East India Company rulers wanted to learn Indian languages. They wanted to learn Indian languages. Why they wanted to learn Indian languages? Because they wanted to converse with the local people. Illi local alli they used to vyavahara madbekalla. They want to do business, because of which they learnt the local languages, right? But so after industrial revolution, what happens? After industrial revolution, British goods gets flood into India. British good, lot of British goods comes to India. E goods na buy mador yaru? Only educated people. Do poor people buy British goods? No. Avrige hottege battege idre saku. But those who buys the British goods, they are educated people. So in order to buy, make more market for the British goods, the British start educating the Indians. British start educating the Indians. Okay. So that is the reason. Next, company rule alli, under company rule, how does the education progress? First is Charter Act of 1813. So Charter Act of 1813 alli, so before this Charter Act alli, Calcutta, Warren Hastings establishes a madrasa. Warren Hastings establishes a madrasa in Calcutta in 1781. 1781 Calcutta Madrasa. Next, Sanskrit College in Banaras, 1791, 10 years later. 1791 Sanskrit College in Banaras, started by Jonathan Duncan, right? Next, Fort William College in West Bengal, Wellesley, 1800. So that gets closed anyhow later on. So apart from this, British or Obrena Madidu, no, Indians also start lot of schools and colleges. Very important among them is Rajaram Mohan Roy agirbodu, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar agirbodu. All your social reformers are associated with one or the other educational field, right? Next, Charter Act. So Charter Act alli enagutte, every year British give 1 lakh rupees. Charter Act 1813, 1 lakh rupees to education. Every year British give 1 lakh rupees to education, right? Next, also I told Rajaram Mohan Roy establishes Sanskrit College. He establishes Anglo Vernacular, some Sanskrit college, Anglo Vernacular Sanskrit College, something he establishes, right? Okay. Okay, next, Orientalistic Anglicist controversy. Orientalist means what? Suppose this is the entire word Oriental. Oriental means which belongs to East, that is China, India, Bangladesh, Southeast Asia. East ige Japan, yade barutte, everything is called Oriental, whereas West is called Occidental or Anglicist. So the languages we speak are called Oriental languages, Dravidian languages, Aryan languages. All of them are Oriental languages. So Oriental andre meaning gottiralla hudugರಿಗೆ, please note down. Okay. So what happens? Whether should we follow English? Anglicist education andre local language alli education ಕೊಡಬೇಕಾ, or should we give English education? ಆ ರೀತಿ ಒಂದು ಕಾಂಟ್ರವರ್ಸಿ gets started, right? Orientalistic said, so Western science and literature. Anglicists say, Anglicists, that is English, those who said we should give English education, they say, they say Western sciences, science alli, humanities alli, we should educate the Indians. Humanities subject, your hearts and all are called humanities subject. So we should educate the Indians in humanities and science subjects. Whereas Orientalistic wanted traditional Indian learning. They wanted traditional Indian learning. Vedas, Upanishads, Shastras, all those things, right? And also Orientalistic wanted the language, Sanskrit education, Indian language alli education avrige bekittu. Next, Lord Macaulay's Minute. Very important. Lord Macaulay Minute, 1835. Lord Macaulay's Minute. Okay. So, Lord Macaulay Minute settles the. So, Macaulay innond ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. First law commission, law codification was done by Macaulay. He also gives contribution to education, right? Macaulay, he says, we will give English education. We won't give the Oriental education. We support English education. So, he says, Indian learning is inferior. Indian learning is not good. English education is good. Anta, European education is good. Anta, Macaulay says. And also he says, we should teach in English. He says, we should teach in English, and he says we should only open few schools. Jasti schools open madbardu. We should focus on few schools, right? And apart from that, so what does he say? We should educate very few people who can become clerks in the British India Company, that is East India Company. Clerks na madana anta he decides. Okay, so ee riti clerks na, we need local clerks. That is why we should educate very few people in English education. That is what he told. But national education, that is the education which they gave, actually helped the Indians. They become what? Nationalist. They started opposing the British itself, right? Okay. Next we have Wood's Dispatch. Wood's Dispatch, also very important, 1854, right? This is called as Magna Carta of English education. Wood's Dispatch is called Magna Carta of English education in India, right? What does it say? It says government should take the educational responsibility. Private or education kodadalla, government should take the responsibility, was said by Wood's Dispatch. And also it says primary level alli we should propagate vernacular, local language education. Next, high school alli we should mix both English and local language, and university li it should be English language anta he says, right? Andre local language, vernacular language, lower level, higher level education, English language. And also it laid stress on female education. Female go education kodbeku, and also vocational education. Vocational education andre skill development. Andre electrician, carpenting, paint, all these things, plumbing, all these things we have to give education, vocational education, those who are not interested in education. right? So because of this, 1857, 3 universities are established. 3 universities. One is Calcutta University, next is Bombay University, and the other is Madras University. 3 universities gets established, and also Agricultural Institute at Bihar, Pusa, Bihar. Agricultural Institute gets established, right? Next, after the crown took over ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆಡಳಿತ ಕ್ರೌನ್ ಆಡಳಿತಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಏನಾಯ್ತು, ಅಂಟರ್ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಕಮಿಷನ್. ವಿ ಸಿ ಅಂಟರ್ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಕಮಿಷನ್ ಇನ್ 1882, 1883. Okay, so what is this Hunter Education Commission? So Hunter Education Commission was set up in 1882 and 1883. So it says it lays emphasis on primary and secondary education. Hunter Education Commission speaks about primary and secondary education. Actually, there is one more Hunter Commission. Hunter Commission on Jallianwala Bagh Hunter Commission. That is different from Hunter Education Commission, right? So this commission lays emphasis on primary education and secondary education. It lays emphasis on okay, primary and secondary education. It says primary education should be by local language. Primary education by local language, and a primary education should be given to local bodies. Municipalities should take care of primary education. That is, BPMP in Bangalore should take care of primary education. Next, secondary educationally there should be two things. One is literary education, another is vocational education. Literary education andre learning, academic learning. Vocational andre I told you already, electrician, plumbing, carpenting, all those works, right? So it says female education should be promoted. Female education should be promoted. Next, Indian Universities Act 1904. It gets enacted during Curzon time ali Universities Act get enacted. So what does University Act 1904 says? Universities should focus on study and research. Universities should focus on study and research. ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರೀಯವಾದ ನಡೀತಾ ಇರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, nationalism. The students will be participating in political activities. That is why this act gets enacted, right? So universities should focus on education, I mean research and study. Next, next, government has the power to veto universities bill, university regulations. University li enaru regulation madre government has a say. Government can say what regulations can be made. Next, colleges na affiliate ಮಾಡ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ universities. Colleges get affiliated to universities, right? That condition was made stricter, strict conditions. Okay. Next, 5 lakh rupees per year to be given for university education. 5 lakh rupees per year should be given for university education, right? Next, we have government resolution on education policy. Education policy, government resolution 1913. Okay, so here what happens? Okay, so here so 1910 Gokhale introduces a resolution. 1910 Gopal Krishna Gokhale introduces a educational resolution saying that primary education should be made compulsory. Primary education should be made compulsory, and there should be a separate department of primary education. Primary education should be made compulsory, and also there should be a separate department for education. Anta Gokhale introduces a resolution, right? So later what happens? This resolution got turned into education policy. The resolution points they introduce into the education policies. So, but government doesn't take responsibility of compulsory education. Now we have free and compulsory education from what age to what age? From 6 to 14 years, right? So government doesn't take compulsory education responsibility. Government yavade responsibility na tegedukollolla, right? But it says we are going to reduce illiteracy. How? Nobody knows. Next, and also in this policy says a university should be established in every province. Every province there should be one university. Mysore province, one university. Madras province, one university. Like that, every university should have every province should have one university. And the next, Sadler University Commission, 1917. 1917, we have Sadler University Commission, right? Okay, so this commission was set up to study the problems of Calcutta University, but it gives a broad explanation. So it says school should cover 12 years. School should cover 12 years anta. Sadler Commission, it says school should cover 12 years, and also school alli it introduces 3-year school admele there should be intermediate, then university. Intermediate andre your PU education. School admele there should be PU education. Okay, and also he introduces 3-year degree education. He says 3-year degree education. So university regulations should be flexible. Andre government should not intervene in university regulations. That was also given by Sadler Commission, right? So university should focus on university should function as a centralized institution. That is, earlier what happens? Universities affiliate a college and university activity spreads. But here they say university should act as a centralized education, centralized institute. Every activity should be concentrated, right? It's a bad model actually. Next, it says female education should be extended. Female education should be extended, right? Okay, so Sadler Commission had a great influence. So many reforms get established. Okay. Okay, so many universities get established. We have Patna University, Mysore University. Mysore University, when does it start? 19? Okay, just check it out. Okay. So, I believe it is 1916. 1916. So, 1916 is the year Mysore University gets established, right? Education under diarchy. Education under diarchy. Diarchy means double rule. So, we have reserve subject and also transfer subject. Reserve subject ruled by governor, no aid and advice. Transfer subject by ministers. Ministers give aid and advice and governor takes decision based on aid and advice, right? So education under Montagu-Chelmsford reforms. Montagu-Chelmsford reforms, education was shifted to provinces, local, state government. Where is education? Is it in concurrent list, state list or union list? Education is under concurrent list, right? So So Montego-Chelmsford reforms, it shifts the education to state list, that is back then provincial list. Montego-Chelmsford reforms shifts it to provincial list, right? Okay, so the provinces ali, it is, there is no finance, actually finances kadme irutte province ali, so education is gets deteriorated, it gets deteriorated. Next, Hartak Committee. Next comes Hartak Committee 1929. So this committee was set up by Simon Commission, set up by Simon Commission. So it speaks about primary education, secondary education, higher education, women education, everything. It's first, it speaks about primary education. So it says primary education is not enough. There is lot of shortcomings. So just expanding the number of schools is not enough. We have to improve the quality. We have to improve the quality. That was the first recommendation, right? And also there was lot of dropout. Students used to drop out of the schools. Why drop out? Because of poverty, ignorance, and all those things, right? So recognizing of primary education is important from the nationalist perspective. Nationally, it is important to recognize the primary education. This was given by Hartak Committee. So it says primary education should be for 4 years. Primary education estirbeku. Primary education andre estu ivaga ellivargu ide? From class 1 to okay, so class 7, right? So he says it should be for 4 years. It should be for 4 years, right? So it also says curriculum. Curriculum andre what the students study, right? That should be locally designed. That is, it should be it should have local elements, right? Next, it speaks about secondary education. Secondary education. Okay, so here there is a large number of failures in matriculation examination. Earlier times, if you see, many people used to fail the SLC exam. So he says there is a lot of failure in the matriculation exam. So we have to introduce diversified curriculum. Curriculum, that is what people study, that has to be diversified, not limited. Jasti diversification irbeku. From this, students would benefit. And also it says industrial and commercial subjects, economy and all these things you introduced, commerce you introduce in the education. Next, it speaks about higher education. It also speaks about higher education. What does it speaks about higher education? It says standard of education is low. Standard of education is low. So it says the affiliated universities should be established based on quality. Universities should be established based on quality, and also we should establish residential universities. Apart from normal universities, we should establish residential universities, right? So next, it also speaks about women's education. Women's education, right? It says recommend the education of both boys and girls should have equal importance. Education of boys, education of girls should have equal importance, right? And also a woman should be allowed for teaching jobs. This is what said by the Hartak Committee. Next, we have Sargent Plan on Education. Last important plan, Sargent Plan, right? So it was given by Educational Advisor to Government of India. Educational Advisor to Government of India, given in 1944. Sargent Plan on Education. Okay. So it has a aim. So what is the aim of Sargent Plan? Andre, it says that universal literacy within 40 years. Within 40 years, India should have universal literacy. Universal literacy means all people are literate. So it aimed for 40-year period. For within 40 years, India will have universal literacy. Next. So next it says, first point is free pre-primary education. For the first time it speaks about pre-primary class 3 to class 6, right? Childhood social experience, to give childhood social experience, that is your Montessori, LKG and UKG, right? And also there should be universal, compulsory and free education from age 6 to age 14. There should be universal, compulsory and free education. This is a provision given under RTE Act. Universal andre elrigu, free andre uchita education, right? Compulsory kodlebeku kadakanditವಾಗಿ, right? So this was said. And also high school should be for a period of 6 years. 6 years. High school should be for a period of 6 years. Okay. So only few people, andre high school alli there should be two areas. One is academic area ondirbeku, and also there should be technical area. Technical area will move students towards industry, technical engineers. So if you have technical area, students can move towards industry. And another area is academic area, where people pursue humanities and other subjects, that is arts, pure sciences. And also university education, it says many students are not fit for university education. So it should be made strict. Not everyone should be admitted to university education. Everyone should not be entitled for university education. It should be made strict. And it should be for 3 years. 3 years. And if there are poor students, there should be given assistance. Poor students idre, we should give them assistance for university education, right? So it also says adult illiteracy. Adult illiteracy should be, so total literacy within 40 years. 40 years there should be proper literacy. And adult illiteracy within 20 years we have to, stop adult illiteracy. This was said by Sergeant Plan. Okay. Next we have development of vernacular education. Education in the local language. We have Varda scheme of education. Varda scheme. So what is Varda scheme of education? 1937. This was inspired by Mahatma Gandhi ji. Mahatma Gandhi ji is the inspiration behind this. So here who forms this Varda Committee of Education? It was formed by Zakir Hussain Committee. Varda scheme of education by Zakir Hussain Committee. Very important. Zakir Hussain Committee gives the Varda scheme of education, right? It came to be known as Nayi Talim. In your NCERT textbook, a Nayi Talim is printed. So that is the Varda scheme of education, right? So it is based on Gandhi's ideas. It is based on Gandhiji's ideas. So what does it say? It says education should be for all from age 7 to 14. Age 7 to 14 years, education should be for all people, and it should include basic handicrafts. Kaigarike include madkobeku. Next, it says first 7 years of schooling should be in mother tongue. First 7 years should be mother tongue, right? Next, next it says Hindi to be taught in areas. Hindi should be taught in areas where it was not the mother tongue. Andre South India dallu Hindi should be taught anta this Varda scheme says. Varda scheme says. However, today it would be opposed. Right? Next, a school should have contact with the society. Schools idre, school should establish contact with the surrounding society. Suppose this is a school, here we have houses, shops and other things. School should have contact with the surrounding society, panchayats and everything, right? So, next, there should be contact, school should establish contact with the community through service. School, children should do community service. Community service andre social service, cleaning, planting trees, all these things the children should do, right? Next, craft to be studied. Craft, handicraft should be studied. Handicraft should be studied under Varda scheme, right? So, it also says painting, music, science, social, everything should be included. Everything should be included, right? Okay, this is what is given by Varda scheme of education. So, vernacular education ge there is a timeline, vernacular education. So, 1835, during 1830s, it starts in the Bengal. During 1830s, vernacular education starts in the Bengal. And also, the Lord Dalhousie, which policy? Doctrine of lapse. He also says we should give education in the vernacular medium, that is local medium. And also Wood's Dispatch, Charles Wood's Dispatch, it also says education should be given in local language, right? Hunter Commission also says local language education. And also your Hartak Committee, I spoke about it, that also says you should give education in the local language. Next, you have development of technical education. Technical education, first engineering college in India was set up in Roorkee, 1847. 1847, Roorkee, first engineering college, right? Next, Calcutta College, engineering college, everything comes, right? Next, first medical college set up in Calcutta, 1835. 1835. Now we will evaluate the British policy on education. So why, though this educational policy of Britain was actually half-hearted policy. So at one hand they wanted to give education, on the other hand they did not want to give education, right? They just, it was philanthropic andre eno seve, ಒಂದು ಸೇವೆ ರೀತಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋದ್ರು education na, right? Then how did education grow? Education grow because of agitation by enlightened Indians. Those who got education, Indians who got education, they protested saying we want more education, anta. Even Christian missionaries also did lot of work with respect to education. And also the education was made available due to British wanted clerks. That is why education was propagated. Next, educated Indians will be a big market for British manufactured goods. British goods ge educated Indians will be big market anta. That is also a reason. And also because of British education, traditional education declined. Because of British education. Next, mass education was neglected. Education was not given to everyone. Education was not given to everyone, right? Okay, mass education was neglected. Okay, so only city people got the education. Education was only for the city people, right? These were some of the shortcomings. And also scientific education was also neglected. There was no scientific education, right? Next, peasant movements. Education chapter is done. We will now move towards peasant movement 1857. Earlier we spoke about peasant movements before 1857. Now we are focusing on 1857 to 1947. What are the peasant movements, right? Peasants, you know the meaning. I have told it again and again. So colonial rule actually adversely affected the peasants. It affected the peasants. Okay, right? Because local artisans and handicrafts, because of British policy, handicrafts, gudi kaigarike stop adrinda, what happens? There were many people who took to agriculture. They lost the job and took up agriculture. Handicrafts ruined, artisans ruined, gudi kaigarike stop adrinda. Everybody took to what? Farming. People took to farming, right? Okay, peasants suffered from high rents. There was high rent. Land revenue was too high. And also illegal levy. There was illegal levy, right? Illegal levy and sumne fine hakavaru raitru mele. So that is the condition. And also high land revenue was there. And also local money lenderer used to exploit the peasant. Peasant was exploited by the local money lenderer, right? Okay, so peasant often resisted the exploitation. So he resisted the exploitation. Sometimes it used to be violent resistance, sometimes it also legal resistance. Legal agi they used to resist. So in order to overcome this, they took to crime ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ಇದನ್ನ ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ. What are the crime? Robbery, dacoity, all those things. So first peasant movement is Indigo Revolt. There are two Indigo Revolts. One is Champaran under Gandhiji 1916. Sorry. So before that Indigo Revolt, same region, 1859 to 1960. Here what used to happen? Bengal planters, European planters exploited the local peasants. They exploited the local peasants by forcing them to grow indigo. They forced them to grow indigo. Indigo, I have already told, it is a crop. It is a crop which gives violet color. Okay, so if what used to do? They used to give some money. And threaten the peasants. They used to threaten the peasants through kidnappings, illegal confinement, flogging. They used to threaten the peasants, right? So apart from this, what happens? Because of all this, peasants get angry. They protest in 1859. Leaders were Digambar Biswas and Vishnu Biswas. Digambar Biswas and Vishnu Biswas were the leaders of Indigo Revolt 1859 and 60, right? Where does it happen? Nadia district. So here planters used to attack. Planters, if the peasants resisted, planters used to attack. So these people, these riots, what they do? They organized a counter attack. Right? Okay. So they also tried methods like eviction. Planters en madru, ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಓಡಿಸೋದು, ರೆಂಟ್ ನ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಾಡೋದು, all these things they tried all these methods, right? They tried all these methods, but everything failed. So they started using legal machinery. Peasants started learning about law. They filed cases against the planters in the courts. Here Bengali intelligentsia, that is your intelligentsia, ಬುದ್ಧಿಜೀವಿಗಳು ಬೆಂಗಾಳಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲ, ರಾಜಾ ರಾಮಮೋಹನ್ ರಾಯ್, all these people, Henry Vivian Derazio, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, all these people supported the peasants. They supported the peasants. So the government appointed a Indigo Commission. Government here appoints a Indigo Commission. Similar to Gandhiji's case, they appoint a Indigo Commission, and it says that the riots, ರೈತರಿಗೆ ಇಂಡಿಗೋ ಬೆಳಿರಿ ಅಂತ, you cannot force them, right? That is what said by the Indigo Commission, right? Next, Pabna Agrarian Revolt, Pabna Agrarian Leagues. So here it is in the eastern Bengal, that is today's Bangladesh, Pabna Agrarian Revolt. So here one important right is there, occupancy right under Act X. Occupancy right under Act X. What is occupancy right? So occupancy right means if the peasants are tilling a land, they get the right over that land, to occupy that land, right? That is zamindars. Would rent the land, give the land for lease to riots, right? They give it to riots for lease. Okay, so after when they occupy and till the land, they get occupancy right, and the act name is Act X. So here zamindars, Hindu zamindars, the peasants were Muslims, Muslim, zamindar Hindus. So here what used to happen, the zamindars made high revenue, forced eviction. They demanded high revenue, they forced eviction for people, eviction of the people. So here what happened, the people of Pabna district started protesting against the zamindars. They refused to pay high rents. They said, we are not going to pay you excess rent, we are not going to pay you, and they challenged the zamindar in courts. Zamindars na court ಗೆ ಕರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ, right? So funds, court cases na fight ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ they arrange the money among themselves. Okay. So here there was very little violence. Violence was not there in the Pabna Agrarian Leagues. Next, so it continued up to 1885. So here many peasants were able to obtain occupancy rights. Because of this, because of the protest, many peasants were able to obtain occupancy rights. They were able to obtain, right? Okay, so here about this, who are the intelligentsia who supported this? It is Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, R.C. Dutt, Surendranatha Banerjee. Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, R.C. Dutt, Surendranatha Banerjee are the intelligentsia. Next we have Deccan Riots. So the riots of Deccan region of Western India suffered heavy taxation under the Rayatwari system. They suffer heavy taxation. Tumba tax ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ riots ಮೇಲೆ. In the Rayatwari, south ಅಲ್ಲಿ there is Rayatwari system, right? there used to be heavy taxation. So, and also there used to be money lenderers. There will be money lenderers who give money to the peasants and they take excess interest. So against this, the money lenders were Marwaris and Gujaratis. And also cotton prices. Here one issue happens, cotton prices reduce. Suddenly cotton prices reduce and the they cotton they depend on cotton. They depend on selling of cotton. Once the cotton price reduces, they don't have anything. They don't have anything, and immediately there is a protest because money lenders demand money. They don't have money to give, so they start protesting. So social boycott, they do social boycott. Andre money lenders ಬಟ್ಟೆ ಒಗಿಯಲ್ಲ, ಅವರಿಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಸಾಮಾನುಗಳನ್ನ ಸಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ, ಅವರಿಗೆ ರೇಷನ್ ಸಿಗಂಗ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ, ಅಂಡ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಅವ್ರ ಮನೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ. So they organize social boycott and this becomes a huge success. This becomes a huge success. This happens in the 1860s, right? Okay, next, changed nature of peasant movements after 1857. What is the changed nature? So, ಇಲ್ಲಿ 1857 ಅಲ್ಲಿ peasants fight for their own rights. Say they don't depend on anybody else. They fight for their own rights. Next, the demands were centered almost only on economic issues. They fight for economic issues, right? The fight was against foreigners and zamindars. The fight was against foreigners and zamindars. And the struggle was directed against limited objectives. They did not have independence objective. ಸ್ವಾತಂತ್ರ್ಯವನ್ನ ತರಬೇಕು ಭಾರತಕ್ಕೆ ಅಂತ ಯಾವುದೇ ಉದ್ದೇಶ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಏನ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಇತ್ತು ಅಷ್ಟು ಸಾಲ್ವ್ ಆದ್ರೆ ಸಾಕಾಗಿತ್ತು, ರೈಟ್? Colonialism was not the target of the movements. So they did not target the colonialism. These people did not target the colonialism, right? They targeted the local issues. Territorial reach was limited. Reach of territory andre limited, did not expand beyond certain region. And also there is no continuity or long-term organization. There was no long-term organization. There was small organization. Weakness ಏನಂದ್ರೆ they did not understand what is colonialism. Colonialism ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಅಂತ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ, right? And also they did not have any proper ideology. They did not have ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ಧ್ಯೇಯ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. They did not have any guri, right? So next, later movements we have Kisan Sabha movement. Kisan Sabha movement, right? So what is Kisan Sabha movement? After 1857 revolt, talukdars in Awadh, they would have lost land. But after that 1857 revolt, these talukdars andre who are the head of the taluks, they get back their land. Right? Okay, so after this they actually oppress the cultivators. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರು ರೈತರು ಇರ್ತಾರೆ ಅವರನ್ನ ಅಪ್ರೆಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. How do they oppress? High rents are taken. Bedakali is practiced. Bedakali means the peasants would be thrown out of the land if they don't pay the rent. And also there will be renewal fees. So ನೀವೇನಾದ್ರೂ land na ಮತ್ತೆ if you want to take for lease, if you want to take, now you are under lease, you are cultivating the land. If you want to take the land again for lease, you have to give renewal fees. That is, renewal fees is called nazrana. Renewal fees, nazrana. Bedakali eviction, important, right? So here, who are the main people? Home rule activists. home rule activists work here. Apart from home rule activists, Kisan Sabhas, there will be Kisan Sabhas. Who are the main people here? Gauri Shankar Mishra and Madan Mohan Malaviya are the important people, right? So, and one more important person, Baba Ramchandra, right? So, this Kisan Sabha says, don't till Vedakali land. Andre, yargaru bere raitrna allinda ಓಡಿಸಿದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಹೋಗಿ ಆ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ನ ತಗೋಬೇಡಿ. Don't till Vedakali land. This was said by Kisan Sabha people. Kisans, and don't do Hari and Begar. Hari and Begar means unpaid labor. Hari and Begar, forms of unpaid labor. Andre, without payment, you should work. This is called Hari and Begar, right? Begar, right? So, because of this, after 1921, the protest turns violent. After 1921, protest turns violent, and they start looting bazaars, houses, granaries, and everything. Next, we have Eka movement. Eka movement, right? So, what is this Eka movement? It takes place in Uttar Pradesh, United Provinces. Okay, why Eka movement? High rent. First is, there used to be high rent among the people. Next, oppression of tikadars. Tikadars, who the people used to collect the revenue, are called tikadars. Oppression of tikadars were there. And also practice of share rents. That is not important. So, here Eka movement, because of these reasons, it takes place in the UP region, and the important leader is Madara Pasi. Madara Pasi is the important leader of Eka movement. Next, we have Mapila Revolt. Mapila Revolt. Where does this take place? Kerala. Mapila Revolt takes place in the Kerala, right? Okay. One second. Okay, I'm going to finish it off. Mapila Revolt takes place in the Kerala. So, what is this Mapila Revolt? So, here Malabar region, actually similar to Bengal region, the zamindars were Hindus. Zamindars were Hindus and the peasants were Muslims. Here, what happens? Oppression by the landlords. What oppression? High rents were demanded, renewal fees, oppressive extractions, and money na forcibly they used to take. So, against this, the local Congress supports Mapila Revolt. So, the leaders, Gandhi, Shaukat Ali, Maulana Azad, everybody supports the Mapila movement. Mapila movement. So, after 1921, this movement turns violent. 1921 admele, this movement turns violent, and British declare martial law. British declare martial law against the protesters, right? Next, we have Bardoli Satyagraha. 1921 martial law admele idu stop agutte. Next, Bardoli Satyagraha. What is Bardoli Satyagraha? So, where is this Bardoli? Gujarat, in Surat district, right? Here, what is the reason? The authorities had increased the revenue by 30%. Revenue by 30%. Revenue na tax na increase madirtare. So, here the Congress protest. They set up a Bardoli Inquiry Committee. They set up a Bardoli Inquiry Committee, right? The committee says it was set up by Congress, and it says the rent hike is illegal. Rent hike is illegal. And Vallabhbhai Patel becomes the leader. Vallabhbhai Patel becomes the leader of this movement. Okay. So Patel set up 13 Chavanis. Chavanis means camps, worker camps. Chavanis. 13 Chavanis. Name is important. Chavanis was set up by Patel. So and also Bardoli Satyagraha Patrika. Bardoli Satyagraha Patrika was started, right? Next, because of this, K.M. Munshi resigns from Legislative Assembly. K.M. Munshi would be president, would be in the Bombay Legislative Assembly. He resigns from there, right? Even Gandhiji also goes to the place, and finally the British agree to reduce the rent to 6%. They reduce the rent to 6% based on a committee recommendation. Next, we have All India Kisan Congress, Sabha, AIKS. So this was set up by, the name is important, Swami Sahajananda Saraswati. Swami Sahajananda Saraswati, right? And who is the General Secretary? N.G. Ranga. N.G. Ranga is the General Secretary. So, Kisan, they started Kisan Manifesto. Kisan Manifesto. So, in 1936, I told Faizapur session. Faizapur session. Where? Faizapur session? Congress. Congress holds a Faizapur session. There, AIKS, All India Kisan Sabha, also holds a session, right? Under Congress Ministry. So this is all about All India Kisan Congress or Sabha. Next, we have peasant activity in provinces. Peasant activity in provinces, right? So, in Kerala, what is the peasant activity? Here, Karshak Sanghams were set up by the peasants. These were called peasant organization. So, because of they protest and demand rights from the landlords. They demand rights from the landlords, and because of this, Malabar Tenancy Act was enacted. Next, Andhra Pradesh. What is the movement? It was headed by N.G. Ranga. N.G. Ranga sets up Indian Peasant Institute. Indian Peasant Institute was set up by N.G. Ranga in 1933. In 1933, there also anti-zamindar movements will be there in Andhra Pradesh, right? Next, Bihar. Bihar ali Sahajananda Saraswati leads the movement. Here, Provincial Kisan Conference takes place. Provincial Kisan Conference over Bakasht land. Okay, so Bakasht land, go and Google what it is, right? Bakasht land. Against this, the Provincial Kisan Committee starts a issue. They starts a movement against the Bakasht land, right? Punjab, actually here, Punjab Naujawan Bharat Sabha and Kirti Kisan Party. These two parties lead the movement, and also Punjab Kisan Committee. Punjab Kisan Committee will be there. What is the issue? Here, it is the land revenue. It is the land revenue issue. The land revenues will be too high, and also water rates on the water for irrigation would be too high. Because of this, the peasants protest against the landlords, right? Next, during the war and post-war. During the war, there is actually no much activity, but post-war we have Tebaga Movement, very, very important. Tebaga Movement, it takes place in Bengal, right? Here, Flood Commission report. There will be a commission called Flood Commission, which gives a report called, it gives a report of Tebaga. 2/3 share. 2/3 share will go to the peasants. 1/3 share will go to sorry, 2/3 will go to peasants, 1/3 to the Bagidar, the landlord. Against this, Bagidar, also called as, sorry, Bargadars. Bargadars are peasants. Bargadars are peasants. This 1/3 were Jotedars. Jotedars were landlords. Okay. So here they gave a slogan, Nich kamare dan tolo. That is, we are going to take the entire thing. We won't give you any share. Okay. So Muslims also participated in large numbers. Here Muslim participated in large numbers. Next we have Telangana movement. So it is a guerrilla war. Guerrilla war means what? In the forest. Suppose your Shivaji, your Marathas were famous in the guerrilla war. That is, they attacked from the forest. So guerrilla warfare in the modern India, it spread across 3,000 villages. 3,000 villages under Hyderabad presidency, not presidency, Hyderabad kingdom. Hyderabad, Nizam Asaf Jah, right? So here communist lead the movement. Communist lead the movement in the Telangana movement. It was led by the communist, and Andhra Mahasabha helps the movement. Andhra Mahasabha helps the movement, right? Andhra Mahasabha role is important. So the peasants organize themselves into sanghams. They organize themselves into sanghams. What is a sangham? It is a organization of the peasants, right? Okay. So what are the achievements? They Veti or forced labor. Here forced labor in north is called Begar. So here Veti, forced labor in south is called Veti, right? And that was disappeared. Agricultural wages was raised, and also illegally seized lands were restored. Lands which had taken over illegally, that was restored. And also land sealing. So no person should have land more than, for example, 5 acres. This kind of land sealing was given, right? These were some of the effects of Telangana movement. What is the evaluation? So this created, because of these movements, Zamindari was abolished. And also it eroded the power of landed class. Landlord power were reduced, right? So next we will talk about last topic for the day. Okay, I was thinking of doing prehistoric India and Harappan culture. Okay, but I am going to end history with movement of working class. From tomorrow we are going to have Indian economy, right? So movement of working class, very small topic. We will finish it off. Okay. So first working class actually starts in the railways. Indian railways and jute mills and cotton mills, right? Okay. Coal industry, jute industry, everywhere there were employees. And what were their problems? There was low wages, long working hours, but very low wages, right? And also hazardous working conditions. Working conditions were very dangerous, right? And also child labor was practiced. Child labor, ಸಣ್ಣ ಮಕ್ಕಳನ್ನ ಕೆಲಸಕ್ಕೆ ತಗೊಂತಾ ಇದ್ರು, right? All these were practiced, right? So here what were the early efforts towards working class movement, right? So early efforts were by moderates. So moderates, do they do anything good for the workers? No, they don't do anything good. They do not take care. They do not take the cause of workers. Right? Because many of them are personally were industrialists. They were personally industrialists. That is why they don't take the cause of workers, because they themselves owned industries, right? Okay, next, the earlier efforts were, first we have Working Man's Club. Working Man's Club was set up by Sasipada Banerjee. Sasipada Banerjee starts up a Working Man's Club, and the newspaper Bharat Shramjeevi. Bharat Shramjeevi, right? And also Narayan Meghaji Lokande. Narayan Lokande starts Bombay Mill and Mill Hands Association. Bombay Mill and Mill Hands Association, and he starts a newspaper Deen Bandhu, right? These were some of the first efforts during Swadeshi upsurge. During Swadeshi movement, what was the role? Workers participated in the Swadeshi movement. They participated in the Swadeshi movement. There were lot of strikes. So, for example, Tuticorin, Subramania Shiva and Chidambara Pillai organize a strike, right? Next, after Tilak's arrest also, there is lot of strike during World War I and later. So, World War, actually, during World War, the prices increases a lot, and there is a rise in exports. And so here Gandhiji also comes during this place. During this time, Gandhiji also where does he come? Ahmedabad mill strike, 1918. Gandhi also takes up the workers' cause, right? And also international events. Communist country, Soviet Union gets established as a communist country. Next, International Labour Organization gets set up. International Labour Organization is set up. Apart from this, we have All India Trade Union Congress, AITUC. So, note down, it was started by NM. Okay, so was founded in 1920. The first president was Lala Lajpat Rai. Lala Lajpat Rai is the first president of AITUC, and it was set up by NM Joshi, Narayan Malhar Joshi. Set up by Narayan Malhar Joshi. Okay, so even C.R. Das is important. C.R. Das also advocated AITUC rights. Okay, there were many people were associated in the workers' right. Nehru was there, Subhash Chandra Bose, V.V. Giri, J.M. Sengupta, and many people, right? Next, we have Trade Unions Act, 1926. There is a Trade Union Act. So, trade unions were recognized. Earlier, trade unions were not recognized. Now, trade unions were recognized. Along with that, condition. So, they give a condition for registration. Registration of trade unions were enacted by this act. First is recognition, second is registration, and also they also secure immunity from criminal prosecution. If trade union people do legitimate protest, that is legal protest, they are debarred. They cannot be arrested. That is what is given in Trade Union Act 1926. Just 3 points. Next, late 1920s. What happened here? So there is a strike in Bombay Textile Mills, 1920, late 1928. There is a strike in Bombay Mills. Here many leaders emerged, communist leaders, S.A. Dange, Muzaffar Ahmad, P.C. Joshi. These were the communist leaders working for workers' cause, right? And also 1929, 2 acts come into place. 2 acts, Public Safety Ordinance, Trade Dispute Act. Public Safety Ordinance, Trade Dispute Act, right? Okay, so what is this Trade Dispute Act? Trade Dispute Act actually says that courts of inquiry, if there is industrial dispute, there is a dispute between owners and workers, we should set up a inquiry committee. Next, it made illegal strikes. So you cannot strike in railways, electricity, water and post. There you cannot strike. That strikes were made illegal. Next, it made trade union activity. No political interference in trade union. No political interference in trade union. Next, most important, VIRAT conspiracy case. VIRAT conspiracy case 1929. So this is very, very important. Here 31 labor leaders get arrested. They try to overthrow the government. Who are the people who got arrested? Take down the names. Muzaffar Ahmad, S.A. Dange, Shaukat Usmani, Philip Spratt and Ben Bradley, Philip Spratt, S.A. Dange, Shaukat Usmani and Muzaffar Ahmad. So, in civil disobedience movement also, these workers participate. Civil disobedience movement also, workers participate, right? So, Narayan Mallar Joshi set up All India Trade Union Federation in 1931. 1931, All India Trade Union Federation gets established under Congress Ministry. What happens during Congress Ministry? Trade union activity increases, but there is a lot of favorable legislations. Pro-labor legislation was bought by the Congress Ministry. Pro-labor legislation. Last topic for the day, during and after the Second World War. What were the labor activity during and after the Second World War? So, the communists called this as a People's War. The communists called this as People's War. They actually don't support the Congress. They support the British because British takes the sides of Russia. That is why they don't support the Congress, right? So they advocate a policy of industrial peace. During Second World War, communists don't carry out any strike. They say do industrial peace. That is no strikes. No strikes, right? That is what advocated by the communists, right? And also naval ratings. So workers naval ratings, Royal Indian Navy Revolt, there also workers support the naval ratings, right? So this is with respect to during and after Second World War, what was the protest movement. So today, I am not going to touch upon, I thought of doing the prehistoric and that is ancient India and medieval India as well, but due to paucity of time, so I have done the entire modern India. Entire modern India is completed. From tomorrow, I am going to take up Indian economy. Indian economy is going to start from tomorrow. Hope you found the classes useful. Please make a good use of it because it is available for free, and please take care of your health and take care. Have a good day. Jai Hind. Namaste.